Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Decryption and I hope you are well. Narrative is a key part of my channel currently. You know I do a lot of tutorials on it. I've made 2 previous versions of this, solving 5 common narrative questions, so I figured we'd carry on with some more. So now we're going to carry on from number 11 and we'll answer some more common narrative questions that I see often. So let's get started. So the first common question we have is, inside your dialogue, is there any way to bulk export it into Excel or something for somebody who doesn't use Unreal in order to make translations or change nodes or stuff like that? Now, there kind of is, but it's limited. So Narrative directly doesn't give you any tools to bulk export these nodes and bulk create them. If you want to bulk create nodes, your writer or such can simply copy and paste it over to you or send you the file and somebody can copy and paste it in. So for example, if I come here and type in player and put a colon, then if I type hello, my name is the player, and then if I were to come and make Tyler a speaker like so and then type in hello player, I can copy and paste this and paste it in here, and Narrative will automatically set the speakers up, and in this case it's used the wrong speaker, and set the player up like so. So you can see it's automatically created the nodes like that, so I don't need these in this case. You can't date nodes automatically from Narrative, just like that. You have to create them fresh. So if you're designing a dialogue and your writer doesn't have access to Unreal, or you prefer something else, populate it in a Word document, text file, whatever, in this fashion, and then you can copy and paste it in. That's the first way to bulk create nodes from scratch. However, another common reason to why you want to bulk export is for translation purposes. You can't really send your Unreal project to a translation service, it's not how it works. So another way you can do it is using Unreal's built-in translation tools. So there are other tutorials on this, so I'm not going to get deep into them in this tutorial, but it's really simple. Like, once you've got it set up, all you do is come to Tools, Localization Dashboard, and you can see in here, I've already set mine up to say gather from these packages, so it's going to select all of my dialogue files. So you can see in here, I have all of my files in content, blueprint, narrative, and you can see all my dialogues in here. And then I've already set my 2 languages up of English and Japanese, and I've clicked gather text. You can see I've got quite a lot of words, and I can simply come and click on one of them and click the edit translations for this culture. And you can see all of my translations are here. It wants me to translate it down here, and that's fine. However, again, you can't send this to anybody, so this is where now you will export it as the industry standard, the PO file. So if I just come here, and if I select, say, I want to do the Japanese translation, I will come and click Export Translations for this culture. If I then come and save this somewhere, you'll see it's saving as a portable object. And now you need a way to open this. You can see inside my Unreal projects, I've got my game PO that's just exported. Now I can open this with a normal text editor, like Gedit or Notepad, and you can see I've kind of got it there, but unless you know what you're looking at, you don't really know what you need to do. But the basic gist of it is, this is our language in English, we're converting it to Japanese, and here's the text. So catch you later, and then the translation for it will be in here like so. Dead easy. And this ID is how Unreal maps it back together, and you can see all the source location. However, there are better tools than that. So PoEdit is a free one that a lot of people use, and it's basically a pimped out notepad. So you can come and get PoEdit on Linux, Mac, Windows, dead easy. Click Browse Files, and then simply come and find your game PO here, or whatever translation you've done. Once you open it, it'll take a little bit of time if your project's fairly big. There we go. And you can see I basically have all of my translations in a nice orderly format. So I can send this PO file to translation services. So that's 2 ways in order to bulk export and update narrative text. The key thing for narrative is in the C++ side, you have a variable, a data type of ftext. And ftext is how Unreal translates or applies the localization tool. If you see this little flag next to a field, it means it can be translated. So you can see all of these here can be translated. And most of Narrative's quests, dialogue, all work that way. The next question that is asked, not often, but still it's asked more than enough that I've written it down, is when you have a task where you have to pick something up. Hey man. So if I skip all of this, is there any way for it to show you in a picture of what you need to pick up? So right now it says find the spark plug. Well, I don't know what a spark plug is, I'm not into cars, so what do I need to do? Thankfully on this game, I've got waypoints, so I at least know that these are the tyres, and there's something over here. But you're not always going to know, because maybe you won't have waypoints, maybe it's far away, maybe it's on a different level. So we need a picture of this to tell people on the quests, this is what you need to pick, which is also useful for the quest journal as well. So how do we do this in narrative? So the first thing we need to look at is we need to look at the task that controls us picking objects up. So I'm going to come and open up my quest and my quest task. So in my quest here, I have my little quests tasks here to say pick up this item, item name, waypoint, blah, 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 stuff like that. So we need to firstly add a variable here to say this is what image you use in order to render the actual picture what we need. So I'm going to come and open this task up, which is a custom one I've made here. If you've not seen this one before, just briefly running through it, I have a delay node just very at the start of it because I spawn my products and then I get all the widgets and stuff, so I just need a small delay. It gets the narrative widget in order for the waypoints to run. It loops over all of my pickups which match the item tag, so spark plug tires. It loops over them in case you put a quantity of more than one or something, and it binds to my items on picked up event dispatcher that I've set. So when you pick the item up, it calls picked up, and then that tells narrative to come down here, add progress. And then something little extra I've done is if I need to complete any extra data tasks off, I don't use it often, which is always a nice little feature to have. After it's bound to it, but it's not run it yet, it also checks if it needs to add a waypoint. If it does, it calls narrative's add waypoint functionality. And then the only other thing it does on task end here, which runs whether you fail or pass, if there's a waypoint, it removes it, else it leaves it. Then it loops over all the pickups we've just picked up and unbinds the picked up event from it here, just before the event goes off and destroys it. And that's pretty much it. It's dead simple. So the first thing we need to do is actually tell it, this is what image you need to use on this task. So I'm just going to come into my variables here and I'm going to add a new one and I'll call it item image. And I'm going to come and set this to a type of texture 2D. So make sure you don't just click texture 2D because we don't want to hold the image in memory all the time. I'm just going to come and pick soft object reference here. And this will mean it's not going to hold the image in memory all the time, only as and when we tell it to load it. So we can compile and save. And that's basically the gist of it, where we store the item image. So if I come back now and go to the spark plug, you can see we have an item image. Now I'm going to make mine optional because I don't want it on every pickup item task. However, it's good to have on some of them. So let's say on the spark plug, I don't think I've got a picture of a spark plug. So we need an image of a spark plug. So if I just come over, say here, this looks like a good place to take a picture. And I'm just going to come and find my spark plug. So here we go. There's my static mesh of a spark plug. I'll drag it up and I'll just focus on it. There we go. I'm going to make it unlit so it stands out a little bit more, which is Alt N3. And then when I've got a good picture of my spark plug, what I want, I'm just going to come down to the console command here and I'm going to type high res shot and I'll do space 1, which will take a full quality image of it at normal scale of my monitor. Now I've got my image. I'm just going to drag this down and import it into Krita or Paint or whatever you want. There's my image, so I'm just going to tidy it up. So for this one, I'm just going to come back to the image here and I'm going to resize my entire canvas. I'm going to set it to something like 128 by 128. It doesn't need to be big. And you can see it's massively shrunk my image, so I'm just going to come and scale it hugely down and plop it roughly in the middle so we can just see the spark plug, like so. And I can make this even probably a little bit bigger, like so. And for me, that'll be okay. I'll probably center align it a bit better there. So for me, that's completely fine for my spark plug. You can, of course, get a proper artist to help you out. And then if I just save this, I'm just going to put my image into here. So we've now imported it. I can delete the spark plug off. We don't need it. Then back in my quest here, I can come to the item image and search for my spark plug image like so. So now that we've done that, the next step is to actually tell our Unreal UI to actually render the image if it's available. So back in the narrative default UI here, this is where our actual tasks are rendered in this little box up here. You can see the task box. And going through all the code and going down it, you'll basically see that it comes down to the BP quest task here. This is what renders the task description and whether or not it's been done with the old style checkbox. So I'm actually going to come in here and I'm going to add an image. I'm just going to drop it inside this vertical box here. I'm going to call it IMG icon. And for me, I want this actually under the text. I want it to say the text and I want it to put a picture of what you need under it. So I'm going to right click this vertical box and I'm actually going to do with wrap with, and I'm going to choose a vertical box like so. So it's wrapped the vertical box there around it, the horizontal box, and I'm going to drag the image into the vertical box so it's just below like that. I'm going to come and tick left aligned and centered, so it's in the middle, and I'm just going to set its image size to 128 by 128 like so. And then I'm going to come and just test it by setting its spark plug image, and then let's play around with it. So I think I'll just keep it left aligned like so. I'll even put some padding above it just to push things at the top. And then the first thing I'm going to do for this icon is I'm actually just going to come and set the visibility to collapse so it's invisible. It'll basically look like that. So this widget here runs for every single objective we have in the game. So this IMG icon half the time won't need to exist, so we can actually deal with removing it. So just reading basically through this, we can see it comes to the construct and it sets the description from this very long bit here to pimp it out to exactly how you need it to. And then it comes and sets the progress. If it's complete, it does what it needs to, which is okay. So what I'm going to do here is just before it comes off up here and sets the task here, I'm actually just going to quickly disconnect this by holding the Alt key and clicking. Then I'm actually going to drag the narrative task in like so, and I'm going to drag off and do get class. From here, I'm going to do equals equals, and then in this class here, I'm actually going to search for my narrative task, which will be nt pickup item like so. So I'm saying, is the current task what we're looking at a type of pickup item? And I'm going to add a branch like so. So if it is a type of this class, I'm going to get the task here and paste it over here. Then I'm actually going to cast it to an nt pickup item like so. And now that we've casted to it, I can drag off from here and do get item image. Normally we would want to have to load this. However, the cool thing about Unreal is if I drag my icon in like this and do set brush, and I can do from soft texture. So Unreal has already got the functionality built in where it will automatically handle loading the image for you, and you don't need to worry about calling async load or anything like that. It'll just automatically do it. And then just to match narrative to what it was doing, I'm just going to come up and drag these handles back up to there. So if it finds the image, it'll go back up there. If it doesn't find the image, I'll also make it go back up there as well. We could turn this to a function, but I'm not going to modify narrative too much because I know there's a big update coming out soon. So the only other thing I'm going to do is come here and I'll just say load texture. The only other thing I will do for performance actually is I'll just untick false and I will just come in and remove IMG icon. I'm just going to do remove from parent on the IMG icon and plug it in. Because if you've got 15 quest objectives and none of them are an item, you don't really need to have the icon sitting there invisible. So we just remove it. And then the only other last things we need to do is after we have set the texture here, we just need to come and actually set it to be visible. So I'm just going to drag off the IMG icon and do set visibility to true, like so. So we actually make it visible, and I'll plug this back up to the set task here, and I can drag the comment across. And if we do have an item image here, we actually just need to validate it here to make sure it's actually a valid instance, because it could very well be a pickup, but have no image. And I can plug this in right here, and if it's not valid, then I can just come and remove the icon like so. And I can also do the same if the cast fails for whatever reason like so. And I can do compile and save. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that should be it. So if I come now and I run up and start Carlos's quest, so you can see the IMG icon's not started here. Hey man, and I've only applied it to one item. You can see it says find the spark plug, and it's specifically showing us what it is. We've got a turbocharger and the racing tires. So I can come and collect the racing tires. I can run over to the spark plug and I can collect it like so, and it'll complete it off. You could even make it, if the task is complete, that it hides the image because you've already done. Which, if you do want to do that, it's really, really simple. All we do is drag in the task complete just down here and drag off of this and say, and drag this across a little bit. And we'll say if the task is not complete and it's a type of pickup, then go off. Otherwise, if it's complete or if it's not a type of pickup, then it'll remove the icon. If I just compile save, try it one more time, you can see as I run to Carlos and start it, you'll see the image exists. And he's asking me if I've already got it. Leave me alone, Carlos. You can see if I pick the spark plug up, the image will disappear because we've already collected it. And you can do this on any item you want, and you can see it doesn't work if you do it. Perfect. So the next request is a very common request for first-person RPGs, and that's when you're talking to us that you don't see the player's response. So if I come up and talk to Tyler here, you can see I can select my items, and if I click it, I have to wait for my player to say his line and then skip. But if you think of games like Skyrim, that's not a thing. That doesn't do that. You click your response, it carries on the conversation immediately. And this is actually really easy to do. So there are a couple of ways you can do it, depending on how often you want to use it. Now, if you only want to use it on some occasions, then all you need to do is come to your player here, and if you're in narrative 3.2, you can just set the duration to be after X seconds and set it to 0. This works if you've only got a few dialogue options you want to run it on. So for example, say if you click this, it just skips it entirely, but the others don't, or you know, some dialogue does, some dialogue doesn't, either way. If I run up and since I've set the duration to 0, you can't do that. You'll say if I select the first one, it'll just go straight to the character, just like that, and carry on the conversation. That's one way you can do it. If you can't do it that way, or you're not on narrative 3.2, there is another way. So I'm going to set it back to default. So depending where you want to do it, in my case, I want it on every dialogue. If you were doing a game like Skyrim, every dialogue is going to work the same. So I'm going to come to master dialogue here, and I'm actually going to come and override the get line duration. If you don't have a master dialogue, you can easily set one up. Just create a dialogue and then make the parent class of all your dialogue to master dialogue. It's a good practice to always do it anyway. And then inside here, the first thing I'm going to do is drag off of this node here and do get class. And I'm going to say equals, and I'm going to search for dialogue player. And you'll see we have a dialogue node player, which is narratives class to say this is a player node. Then from the return node, I'm going to drag out backwards and do a select, a float like so. And I'm going to connect the Boolean into it. So what this select is going to do is if it is the current node is a player node, it's going to pick A, which is going to pick this option here. So if it is a player node, I just want it to keep it to 0. So 0 time, it'll come to the player node, immediately see it's finished and just skip it. However, if it's B, then it means it's a narrative node and we want it to actually continue the normal way it normally runs. So I'm just going to come to the line duration here and pick add call to parent function. And this is basically going to tell narrative, go and do what you normally would. So I'm going to connect this up and connect all the parameters like so. And then I'm going to connect this return value into B and connect it up here, like so. So what this will do is come in and say, are you a current player node? If you are, use A, which is 0, and just skip it. If you're not, however, then use B, which is get the normal duration and continue. So now you can see if we come back, everything will look the same, but now every single player node in the game will automatically skip itself and move straight to the NPC. So you can see I can talk to him. Let's pick the bottom one. Boom, straight away. And I can do it on every single node. It will automatically never speak for the player anymore, just like that. But you know me, we never really want to do it that simple. So let's take it one step ahead. What if you want some dialogue to skip, you don't want others to skip, but you want the skipping feature in, you don't want to have to go and click it? What about if you want it dialogue wide? We can do that as well. And that's really simple. So once you've done all of this get line duration bit here, I'm actually just going to come and add a variable in here called skip players lines. And I'm going to leave it to false by default. So you can see default value, it'll just be false anyway. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come in here and say, if it's a type of player node and we're skipping player lines, then it should pick A, which is 0, else it won't. And I'm going to compile and save. And just with that, ladies and gentlemen, if I come back to my dialogue now and in my class defaults, at the first, I've got skip player lines unticked. So if I run the game, and you can see if I talk to him now, my player lines should stay on the screen. There we go. Well, what do we have here? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it's normal. We can come here and you can see skip, boom, it skipped it straight away, and I can skip the player's lines. It's like he's not even there, almost. And you can see if I come over to someone else, his is going to work properly because we've not ticked his dialogue. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That is how you can skip the player's dialogues from ever really showing their response, just like the Skyrim style. You can do it individual node-based, you can do it per dialogue-based, or you can do it entirely. The next common feature to match typical RPGs is to actually remove the speaker's name. Because you're looking at the speaker, you kind of know who they are. So is there a way we can remove it, or even just move it around, really? And we can, and it's really easy to do. So I'm just going to come back into my narrative default UI. So I'm going to press Ctrl or Command P and search for BP narrative default UI. So down here, you will actually see a little box here inside the dialogue UI canvas panel, and you've got the current dialogue line here, and this is what controls showing both the text and the speaker ID. It combines them together. And the way it does this is if we come into the graph here and go to your dialogue widget, you can search for where it starts rendering the player's line. So you want the on NPC line started and the on player line started. So you can see these two events is exactly how it controls rendering the dialog's text. So right here, you can see it's got a format text where it's getting the speaker ID, adding it to the beginning, and then getting the dialogue line and adding it to the end like so. And it does this for both characters. So for example, if you wanted to remove the speaker name and just have it, you can just delete it off like that. That's literally all you need to do. So I've only done it on my NPC at the moment, so you can see it working and not working. But now every NPC won't render their speaker ID. It will only show the text. So you can see there. We're looking at him. Well, I've actually forgot his name at the moment, but we're looking at him. And we can see if the player selects an option, then it will show the player because I kept it in. So that's how you remove it. That's really simple. But what if you want to move it to a new place? So maybe you don't want to remove it. Maybe you want it above it or something. So I'm going to come back into here and I'm actually just going to duplicate this current line, dialogue line, Control or Command D. And I will call this current dialogue speaker. And I'm going to go for what I see on most RPGs, where I'm just going to put it just above it. So I'm actually going to grab both of these. I'm going to right click, wrap with, and I'll do a vertical box, like so. So you can see the speaker's above it, like so. And the dialogue line is just there. It's moved it out of the way for a moment, but we'll fix that in a minute. For the line, I'm just going to come and tick fill, so it takes up the vast amount of space it needs. And then back on the vertical line, why is it doing this? Let's have a look. I'm just going to come and set the alignment to 1 and 3, and it will align it back in the middle like it needs to. And you can see we've got the speaker there, and we've got the text there. So then I'm going to compile this, so the front end's saved. And then back in the graph here, instead of now assigning it to the set text here for the current dialogue line, I'm actually going to drag in the current dialogue speaker. And again, I'm just going to do set text and connect it up. And then the set text here is going to be a copy of this format text here, except we're going to remove the dialogue line after the colon, like so. Now it'll ask for the speaker name, which we know is this one right here. And I'm going to connect this up to the in text here. So that's going to basically get the speaker info, which I can essentially drag down here, get the speaker name, exactly how it should be formatted, and plug it into the speaker there. And then up here, I can actually just come in, and just like we did before, I can remove the dialogue speaker, like so. And again, we've only done it on the NPC. We should have to do it on the player as well if you want both of it. But now if I run up, the speaker ID should be above the text, like so. Tyler Talk Johnson says this, and you can make it say anything you want. And you can see the player is still down there. So the only reason we saw the player and it is because one of them we're using this, the other we aren't. If you applied the logic to both of them, so if I was to come down here, and if I was to put this select string here and just paste it over here, so this is going to get the player's name. So this is going to get the player's name, format it in the correct format, check if we're supposed to show it or not, and then we can just plug it into the in-text there, converting it over. And then all we'll do is just remove the speaker name from this here, so it connects up automatically like so. And one last thing I was going to do is I'm just going to grab the speaker and I'm just going to left align it. It looks so much better left aligned than in center aligned. And now you'll see if I run up, every single dialogue will now say the name across to the left and what they're saying below. So you can format that however you want. There we go. So that is how you to add it to every single dialogue. The final common question we see, ladies and gentlemen, is how do we remove player options from being showed on screen once you've selected them? So you can see when I come up to Tyler here, and I select an option, my option will stay there until we get back to the next player options. Some people don't like it, some do, but let's show you how to remove it. So I'm just going to come back into my narrative default text here, and then in the graph, right at the top, we will see a select reply, which is what runs when you actually say to narrative, I want to use this reply here. So my custom version actually goes through and just hides them all, like so. So my custom version goes over the player dialogue options and just hides them like so. Because narrative's default functionality when you scroll up and down is to physically scroll the options up and down. However, one of my previous mods showed how to just make it so the arrow scrolls up and down instead. So either way, on this function, you will have a for loop going through all the items. And you'll see it comes down here and sets them to invisible, but it gets the current one that is visible and just sets it enabled and selects it. So all you need to do is firstly delete this is enabled like so, and then we're actually going to move this set visibility before the branch like so. And we're going to disconnect the true from there. So it's going to come from the loop body into the visibility, from the visibility into the branch, and then from the branch it's going to come into the set play reply on the false here. So if the current reply we've selected, so as it's looping over them, once it finds the current player reply that we've selected, then it's going to set the reply here, like so. So what this is basically doing is looping through all of our player options that we've spawned and saying if the option we've selected doesn't equal this current player reply that we're on, then skip it, else if it does, then it'll set the player reply and tell narrative continue with this option. So that's it. All we've basically done is move the visibility back before and disabled hidden and disabled enabled. That's it. And we've deleted the enabled flag. So you can see now if I come up and talk to him and if I select my player options, they all disappear. Just like that. Now it looks a little bit more like Skyrim like people want. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. So with some UI tweaks, of course, because I'm not a UI person, you can make it look really, really good. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That's 5 more common questions I see in narrative that are relatively simple once you know the system, so you can hopefully take it away and transform it into some beautiful, wonderful things. Thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. If you get any more questions you want, please let me know below. Please like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you next time.